It don't matter no black or white. And we all know it's wrong. We all know it's wrong. We all know it's wrong, yo. But who's gonna fight to make it right?
Curtis Mayfield is dead. He died in 1999 at the age of 57, which is younger than I am now. He died of complications from type 2 diabetes, which is a condition that I have. He was an American soul/funk singer. He was born in Cook County Hospital in Chicago. He started singing in a gospel choir and at the age of 14 joined the vocal group The Impressions. In 1965, he wrote a song called People Get Ready, which is one of my favourite gospel/soul songs. And in 1970, he went solo and released 22 solo albums. Hi, my name's Dan, and this is a review of the album Curtis Flash Live by Curtis Mayfield, released in 1971, and it was his first live album. And you might have got the fact that it's a live album from the title. And it's my first time listening to this album, so I'm completely new to it. It's a double album, and it was recorded at the Bitter End nightclub in New York City. And I would describe this as containing soul and soul funk. So soul funk is a category that I have just made up to fit this album, because it's kind of, there's quite a bit of funk in here, but it's funk with a kind of soul-y edge to it. Let's get into it, kind of, the music a bit more deeply. So there's surprisingly limited instrumentation here for this kind of music. There's in fact Curtis singing, and then there are 4 people playing. There's a drummer and a percussionist and a guitarist and a bassist. So there's no brass, there's no keyboard, and that's quite unusual for both soul and for funk. The guitar is soft and light, and is quite like jazz guitar stuff, and it's the only harmonic thing in the mid-range apart from Curtis's voice, which is interesting, but it wasn't until I started thinking about what is there in here that I noticed that, because it does such a good job of giving you the structure of the music. So actually, I would say musically, the musicians here are incredible. There's a really good job being done here. It gives a really confident and structured sound from very few people being involved in it. It felt like a bit like one of those really good artists who can make a few quick lines of paper on quick lines of charcoal on paper, or pencil or something, and suddenly you've got a gorilla on a motorcycle or a Formula One car racing through a fairy glade or something like that. And it gives you what you need without any clutter, and it's quite just cleverly done in the way that it's done that. I got quite captivated by the playing, particularly, well, actually all of them, but Henry Gibson on the congas is just excellent on percussion. There's a breakdown in the first song, which is just him and Curtis singing. It's so good. But also the bass, I often notice the bass, and it's kind of funky bass for most of the time. It's really nice. Slightly farty sound at times on the bass, as if he's playing through a speaker that it's got a bit ragged around the edges. So it's kind of got that. It's not really distortion, it's just a kind of artifact of the sound. Drums, again, not just a solid backbone here, but a really good feel to this. In fact, this is a really good band. It's a dream band, I would say. The reason why I call it soul funk then is because I would say it's lighter than some funk. Partly, I think that maybe is the instrumentation, but I think partly it's just the approach to it. It's got this kind of deft, light look to it, so it doesn't feel like P-funk, some of the really gritty funk, which I love. But I also like this quite a lot. It's this light soul touch to it, and that's why I'm using putting soul funk rather than just funk. In some ways, sometimes Sly and the Family Stone were a bit like that, but this goes further down that route, I would say. And there's kind of lightness to it. It's emphasis by Curtis's singing, which is high and light. It's quite distinctive. I do. So my process, I keep talking about it. So apologies for people who've seen this loads of times. But if you're new to me, I'll explain. I do a listen, then I read, then I listen. I don't know why a read goes like that and a listen goes like that. And so I did a read in between the two listens. And in my reading, I read that the contemporary critics at the time, at least one of them, kind of said that his high voice doesn't work for this kind of music. I completely disagree. I think it's definitely a sound. Now, I think that maybe in retrospect of a certain amount of Marvin Gaye, since then, I think the acceptance of the high voice in the style of music may have come along after that. But I think it works. I think it works. It works well, but it does give this kind of lightness to things in the way that he sings. He's not a gritty, gutsy singer. He's a kind of light and nuanced kind of feel. But it's quite distinctive, his voice, I would say. He's got some nice rapport with the audience. It sounds like a small and quite responsive crowd. Curtis at times sounds almost like a stand-up comedian, with the way that he's working the room. And it's not just between songs, but sometimes in the middle of songs too. It does the thing where they get a musical breakdown and he starts to talk to the audience, which is a thing that I can quite often enjoy, that sort of thing. Yeah. So the songs are about various things. There's a general trend towards social and political commentary. There's bits of race relations, not unusual for this time, 1971, this kind of music. There is a song about a gypsy woman, which obviously is not in that. There's a really nice song about the early years of marriage, which I enjoyed quite a bit, which is We've Only Just Begun, which is not Curtis Mayfield's song. And There's People Get Ready, which is one of my favourite soul/gospel songs anyway, and it's one that Curtis wrote. And most of the songwriting on the album is Curtis Mayfield stuff. There's some nice extended passages, especially the last two tracks are quite long. They're kind of 8 and 9 minutes or something like that. Overall, I enjoyed it. It's a nice album. There's some great musicianship. There's some interesting songs. There's quite a lot to enjoy here. So, yeah, that's what I think. But that's just my opinion. And as always, I'd love to know what your opinion is. So please really let me know. And anybody else who happens to read the comments, know by leaving a comment in the comments. That's what the comments are for. And I'll say the word comments once again before I say that's it from me for now.
People get ready. There's a train a-coming. You don't need no baggage. You just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesels humming.